Okay, so July 15th has rolled around already. So this is actually I guess this is our fourth caricature carving session. Let me just see if I can get this thing to work properly. There we are. Okay, so what we'll cover today is just a welcome. So again, welcome back everyone. In the middle of July, we're bound to only be able to tap into a few of us because everybody's out camping or cottaging or just having fun, which is great. But we're going to carry on with our work here. And as we approach the fall and people are able to call back in and be part of this Zoom call, we'll review some of this stuff again. So we'll just take it from there. We're going to start by just opening up for any questions or comments based on anything that we have talked about in the past. So anything from coming up with ideas and clay modeling to what John covered with us last time, starting the notion around developing a head and a face. And then we're going to hand it over to John, and he's going to pick up where we left off, maybe talk a little bit about anybody's work that has been accomplished since last time on trying to do the head and face and providing us some tips. And then he'll take us beyond, carving in the ear and the nose and that type of thing. Okay. I had a few questions asked of me around attaching additions to a carving. So I had mentioned to you before that I very often will add an arm or a leg later if the arm or leg is such that it looks like it's going to be green in the wrong direction and easily snapped off. And so I'll just go over that very quickly. I have a couple charts to show you on that as well. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. So let's start it off by just talking about any questions that anybody might have or any comments on anything that we've talked about in the past. So I'll just kind of open it up to everybody.
I had a piece of aromatic cedar. It had a nice grain to it, and I figured it would be nice for a ballerina. But anyway, I started carving it, and I ended up cutting two heads off it. So the ballerina got quite short.
So there you go. I thought you were going to tell us there's something about a two-headed ballerina, but
well, it ended up with three heads, but two.
Yeah.
And the third is still not good.
Did most of you or did any of you get a chance to try John's method of carving a head?
Yeah.
Did you? Okay, good.
Yeah. How's it look? Excellent. Yeah.
Very good. Okay, so. Okay, any other questions before we let John rip into it for us? Okay, John, it's over to you.
Alrighty. Okay. We're always talking about expression. We want to start out with expressions and what to look for and how to do it. So I drew like a guy smiling here, like you just little smile, and there's not much detail. But if I really emphasize the detail, he's really smiling. You can see his cheeks. You just think of yourself. You get a mirror, put a mirror in front of you, and look, when you smile, your cheeks get smaller, your eyes get smaller, your everything goes up, goes up. And so compared to this one, like, this is, anybody could carve something very simple. But if you really want to get the expressions, just feel your face when you are looking in the mirror and feel your face, your cheeks, how they go up, and do the exact same thing when you carve. So it's more expression. You'll tell the story of what you're trying to do. You make it, the guy's smiling at something, whatever, right? So I just made some. This guy's angry. He looks like he's angry, but very plain.
Okay, you have to move that one up, John.
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
This guy's very, very plain. Just he looks angry. But if you really want him angry, look at this. He's really angry. You got the eyebrows, the brows all curled. And his eyes are, the when you carve that eye out, you carve it like this. That gives you really good expressions. And really tells the story. He's really mad. He's really pissed off. And compared to this guy, he's mad, but this one really tells the story. He's really mad. So, and his head's tilted a little bit. He's, it's off center. This guy's straight up and down, just off centered a bit. Center's here this way. Go a little bit on an angle, and build up that story that you want to come across. And I got get away. Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, look at these guys. Like he's scared. It looks like he's not very scared. Not much of a story there, right? But then if you put his eyes like that, and you have a lot of detail in his brow. Like if you just take the brow away, you can't really tell what the guy's thinking about or what his problem is. You really can't tell. But if you put the eyebrow there, you go, holy, he's really showing tension or stress, or right. This guy's sad. This next one's sad. Look at this guy, he's really sad looking, or angry or sad. But like I said, just get a mirror and look at pretend that you're sad or angry or whatever story you want to tell, and look at your face, how it curls in and out. All these muscles in your cheeks are pulling this up, and or pulling it down. Like you want to be, if you're really sad, or this one's here, the eyebrows are really, his eyes are wide open. What else? Where to go? Yeah. That's one of the main things I want you to pick up on, is when you do people are asking me about expressions and stuff. Like, just get it. The perfect example, the perfect thing is right in front of you, is your mirror. There's a mirror that you put in front of you, and make the faces, and then see how your face curls up and curls down, and your ears move, or your brow moves, how many lines there is, or your teeth, how much teeth is showing. Or when you're angry, you're mad, you're turned a little bit, tilted a little bit. Yeah.
A couple of things I'll mention. When you're doing that in front of the mirror, close the blinds.
Yeah.
The neighbors will be talking otherwise. The other thing, John, is people might think that you have to have this all in your head before you make the first cut on the head itself, right? But if you follow these kind of steps around, just doing the ear first and then just hollowing out the eye cavity, all of this detail can come a little bit later, right?
Yes, yeah. For sure. But you got to get that basic shape first. Where to go here? You got to get this guy down first, and then you start from there. But then you're thinking all along too, this is a story I wanted to come up with. He's angry, or he's whatever my story is, what I'm trying to portray. You still got to think of that and think, okay, like I said, with this picture, he's happy. So I know this guy that I want to carve is going to be happy. So I'm going to make sure what his cheeks, when I do his cheeks, they are going up. They are, when you just smile, you can feel your muscles in your face. Pull that cheek up, and that kind of stuff. Any thoughts? Anybody thinking of anything? Or
yeah, Daniel here. I'm just interested. I noticed is there a sort of a generic pattern that we can work from?
well, I have like this one's like a Lindottery pattern.
Okay. got, I have that at home.
Yeah.
Basically what you're using then.
For this one, for not this one, but this one is.
Right on. Okay. Thanks, John.
Okay. With doing like, when you do Lynn Doherty patterns, they end up looking like Lynn Doherty carvings. Where is it here?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, like, oops. Like, that looks like I could pass that as a Lynn Doherty carving itself. You know, so what I do, like I love his carvings. But I pick up on stuff that he does, like little things that he does that I like, that works for me.
Yep.
And so I'll take a little piece from that and I'll put a piece of, you know, I like doing the silhouette. I like doing these ones. It gives me more action, but these ones, they all look like Lynn Doherty's carvings. The same style.
Right.
So I don't think, you don't want to get stuck. You don't want to copy him,
Well,
but you want to learn.
What I've been trying to do, like for many years now, is I look at, say, Lynn's work,
Right.
and I sort of take sampling from him of things that he, and then I'll go see Dave Stetson.
Yeah.
And I'll look at some of his recordings, you know, and his stuff. It's mostly his recordings, and look at his stuff and pick out little things there that I think I can do in that. And I've learned a lot just by doing that. Not, you know, with as many carvers as I can do.
Exactly. Yeah. Everybody know Pete LeClaire?
Yep.
Yeah. Here's one of his. I traded him.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's
This is
very
one of
special.
his.
Very special.
He's to John. It's got to John on it.
Wow.
And from Pete LeClaire.
Nice.
Yeah. So we were carving in. Where were we? Kitchener. And so we traded carvings, and I traded Marv Kazakhstan.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of Marv's, but you can tell he has his own style, right? Everybody has their own style.
Absolutely.
So what I'm saying is, you gotta, like, nobody wants to copy. Nobody wants to be a bunch of Lynn Dohertys, but you want to learn from his techniques and take a little bit from him, take a little bit from him, and you're going to create your own style. You'll create your own. You'll say, oh, there's John's carvings, or there's George's carving, there's Mark's carvings. You know, a Mark carving from anybody else, right?
Yeah.
So what I'd like to do is I like doing the silhouettes. This is going to be like this one. This is the same guy, and that doesn't look like, you couldn't tell that if that's not a Lynn Doherty type carving.
Right.
But there is aspects of it, like how he does his eyebrows, how he does his ears.
The ears, yeah.
Yeah. But some things I picked up, and some things then you learn from yourself, and you say, okay, works for me. This is what I can do easily, or this is, and might not be easy for somebody else, but it might be easy for me.
Right.
Yeah.
A couple of things that I like, John, from Lynn's fashion of doing things is the size of the ear, and to start with the ear, like you showed us last time, to start with the ear, because once you get that huge ear and you get that, you know, really fanned out like car doors, it really sets up where everything else should land on the carving, in my view. The other thing, a real takeaway, again, from Lynn's style of carving are the eyes. And so, you know, the notion of really getting those eye sockets as eye sockets before you go anywhere else with the eye. And I see that in all the different styles that you've shown us tonight here, John. is the eyes are clearly well into the face, well beyond the
Right.
tip of the nose, well beyond the cheeks, and that's
Yeah.
a real it's kind of an moment for a carver to realize that the eye is that far back in the skull. Because if you look at your earlier carvings, we tend to carve the eye like it's right on the
Yeah.
edge of the face, but it isn't. It's way back in the head.
Yeah, half the eye is in the back. You can see. Like, look at your wife or husband or whatever, and you'll look, and like I said, that the side profile, if you want to do somebody that looks like somebody, you have to do a side profile. You look at your wife, you look at her face on, but you look and you think you could draw her side profile, but then once you look at her side profile, you go, holy geez, that's totally different from what I think it is, what I think I would draw. And she or he is totally different. There's some, I was watching, look at, no, that's not a good example, but anyway, I wish I had more pictures, but
So that one you're holding up right there, side view. Now that's a really good example of how far you go beyond the bridge of your nose to even start the eyelashes and even start the eyelid. Like that's well back from the crease in the nose, you can see. And that's just the beginning of the eye, as John was saying. Then you go back beyond that as well.
Like on your, like, everybody take your finger and put your finger on your nose, just above your nose.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a notch there. There's a, right here. You can feel that. You can feel your brow bone,
Yeah, just lift your carving up again, John.
Oh,
that's good.
Put your finger right here, then you can feel this little notch over your head, or over your eyes, and you can feel the brow. I don't have a good example here, but anyway. And just by feeling that, when you're carving that head, you should be carving that that brow bone in. They carve that away and keep this higher where the brow is, and above where the notch is, or like that notch is clear. If you put your finger on just above your nose, attaching to you can feel that notch. And the same thing with your ears. The jawbone is right below your ear lobe. Ear lobe right here.
Mm-hmm.
And your eye should be across from your ear, the top of your ear. And your mouth is across from your mouth. The bottom of the ear is across from the mouth. So these measurements, you have to, even though it's a caricature, you got to consider them. You got to put them in. Because if you had his ears way down here, it wouldn't look a human, or way up here. It looked like a deer or something, right? So you still got to put, close. It doesn't have to be. It is a caricature, but you got to put it in fairly close to where it's supposed to be on a human being. Any questions?
Yeah, yeah, this is Richard.
Yep.
Last time in the magazine, you included the outline for the body, and
Yep.
I really found that very, very helpful. If you could, are you interested in putting in a couple of these outlines so that we can see where to start from before we start doing it? And the other thing I'll mention is I used to take lessons from Phil Orchard, who has passed. But Phil would constantly say, your eye is a golf ball and you're only seeing the little outside edge. And he said, if you don't make your eye like a golf ball back in there, your face isn't going to work.
That's flat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, here's like the body. like that's the body shape. But I always go 2 inches wide. And I go 3 inches. I split the legs. If this is just a stand-up guy, right? This is 3 inches wide. And this is my standard guy for most of my carvings. Yeah, but that's a good point. So you live in London?
Yes, I do.
You should join. I have a carving club at the London Community Workshop every Tuesday night.
Okay.
And you got a bandsaw there, and bandsaws and tools there. And
All right, I've been working for the last few years out of the Kiwanis Senior Center during the day between on Mondays and Thursdays.
We do a Zoom Skype call every Tuesday night if you ever want to join.
Okay.
There's about 6 or 7 guys there, sometimes 10.
Thanks for the hints. And yeah, the body that you put in the last magazine was a big help for me because I could refer to it and say, okay, that's what it should look like, not the stick that you've got. And trying to do 1 or 2 of those face outlines would be a real help for somebody like me.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome.
Just being a newbie, what magazine are you talking about? It's Daniel.
The Ontario Woodcarvers magazine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I guess I should look into trying to get a hold of that.
Yeah. Murray can set you up.
All righty.
It comes with a membership, and you simply can go onto the website and click in there and do all the rest, and Mark will help you.
Terrific. Murray, can you give me the website quickly or send it to me, one or the other?
Yeah. Did you put your email in at the site, at the right side there? On the
Yes.
chat? Okay, I'll do that later.
Thank you, sir.
Any more questions? Any more ideas? Or does anybody want to show us your show and tell? Show us your latest? No show and tells?
I got a couple.
Well, they got a few there. Robert's got one.
Okay.
You have to talk, Mark, Robert, and unmute yourself.
Okay, this was my first attempt at it.
Yeah.
And that's the way it turned out, but
Yeah. Hey, it looks good. You know, one of the critiques I could do is like, see, we're talking about the eyes, how flat they are. And look at, you see my eye. See yours is this, you got this half of the eye. This half of the eye should be this and into the side of the head. So you're look up yours. Yours is pretty. If you go sideways like this,
yeah,
I can't see your eye.
okay, right, yeah.
So you got to make a notch. Wish I had one. Hey, give me a second here.
Here, I got one here, John. I got
Robert,
one.
hold your man up, your little carving up again, and keep talking, so you'll be able to see yours.
Okay, that's I cannot see the eye though from the side like you said.
Yeah.
So here's another view of. Now I'm not as far along on mine as yours, but you can see what John's talking about there. I think.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah. See
You
that
see
notch?
you see the notch in the eye.
right,
The eye portion, the eyeball portion is probably as deep as yours, but then I used a little gouge and a knife to extend that well to the side.
okay,
So when I do eventually, put the eye in there, you can see automatically, you're going to be able to see the side of it. Okay.
okay.
Anybody else?
I have one that I tackled from one of your drawings there, John.
Yep.
Wonder if you can see that. It's supposed to
Oh,
be
nice.
he looks like
Yeah.
looked like a tough guy, so I made him bending iron.
Nice.
Got some pipes on him there.
Very nice, Alec. That looks good.
That looks really good, yeah.
Yeah, really good.
And I got a gentleman I walk every morning, not every morning. I see him maybe 3 days a week, and we're out walking at the same time. And he's a birder, and he's quite interesting looking. So this is him looking. This is his actual stance that he uses when he looks at birds. But I stuck one on his peak, and it's a nothing bird. It's got a blue jay crown on it. It's got
Nice.
all kinds of different aspects, different birds.
I like the eyes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Yep.
And I was lucky enough, things are opening up. I went over to Sebringville to buy some wood.
Oh, yeah.
And I wanted to get some 3 or 4 inch. They only had 2 3/4, but they were nice enough to charge me for 3 inch. And I had to pay $7.90 a board foot.
Ooh.
So I got 2 3/4 by 8 inches by 10 feet long for $185.
Wow.
Oof.
But that'll keep me busy for 2 years.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I sent this already to John Paul, an example of
Yep.
the character that I worked with. And if you can see the face, and I don't know if it's fading out with a fuzz on it on the background, but they got a really wide jaw. And if you turn it like this, you'll see the nose protruding. And John Paul, your methods worked for me, that I added my own expressions to it from that point.
Right.
And this fellow's carved on a 2x2 piece. His neck will come down at its angle, and he's likely going to become an undertaker. My son-in-law is an undertaker, so it'll be showing up that somewhere along the line.
Yeah, that's a good one. Good one.
Looks good.
I just want to come back to this guy here. When you're doing a lot of people do is you have to like nothing straight on your face. Like you got to go like cheeks are rounded here, get a sunk in over here where your teeth are, your jowl. But there's no straight lines. Make sure that you don't keep any straight lines. Make sure everything's rounded or carved in. There, like a lot of people will just have it straight like this, right? And put an eye in. But you got to make sure there's no straight lines on a face. Make sure it carves around, sunk in. Well, this one here is another eye thing. So here's what I do when I do the eye sockets. See, when I carve in, I do the notch.
You just need to lift it up, John. Yeah.
I do the notch like that. But then I'll go, here's how I get the eye on the side of the head. So now I'll take the side. I'll scoop
just
Hold it
gonna
a
have-
little higher,
You're
John.
gonna have to raise her up a bit, John. That's it.
scoop that up. And now that eye is in the side of the head. So when I do carve the eye, I'll do the round circle here. Half is in the back of the head already. And then when I put that eye in after, then I'll put a little notch here because the eye isn't, that side of the face isn't straight. It's hard doing it this way. Just give me a second. I can't see what I'm doing. I'll have to, dig out the nose more and make the nose more prominent, but so that's how I do And then I can do the brow, because I know now where the brow is here. It's a lump here. It's higher than up here on your forehead. So what I'll do, I'll go, I can see that.
It gives it more definition.
Yes, yeah. And you bring that all the way up to the top, your whole forehead, and then you put the hair on after, whatever. But you got to put that brow in. You know, the definition of that notch, the definition of the eye, where the eye socket is. And I'll do the other side. Just scoop that out. Hard for me to see this. I was looking. Yep. At this point, like I can see it. What I'm creating is, see if I wanted to create him having one eyebrow higher than the other. So this is the point where I can scoop that a little higher, and this one's a little lower. Shit. Let me see. Yeah, it looks pretty good. But you see the attitude in the eye already, right? The forehead, like that brow makes everything. So his eye is going to be up. And a second, I'll put a circle here. He's got a different look altogether by just lifting that up and lower this side, or I could go do the same right across, right? But you want that attitude, or whatever you're trying to portray, you want to express, is all in the eyebrow. I find the eyebrow is the main part of a carving that expresses what you want to say. Angry, happy, sad, whatever. You know, like if you're tense, if you're say in a tense situation, you'll have lines in you'll see lines in your head. That's how policemen will look at a person and see if they're lying, or it's all in their brows. If there's tension, there's two little lines there that comes up, and you're deceiving somebody, you'll have lines. But you see how that eye is going to be set back into the side of the skull, the side of the head. Any questions?
Just a comment.
Yep.
Regarding the eyes and the way people look is when and if you have the eyes looking up to the left or right.
Yeah.
They're thinking. If they're looking left and right at a parallel, right, horizontal to the ground, then they're kind of looking for an answer. But if the eyes are looking down left or right, they're guilty.
Yeah.
Those are cartooning effects that we use.
I could have used those skills when my kids were younger.
Yeah.
That's when you learn how to do it.
Your dad didn't teach you, eh?
I guess not.
Can I ask a question here?
Yep.
When you're doing a caricature, there are things that are exaggerated. So on a head, the ears are bigger than normal. Is that correct?
Yeah, we can make anything exaggerated. Nose, mouth, teeth, right? You can, but it's got to be proportioned and exaggerated. But you got to be able to, like I said, if he had a bigger ear, he'd look like a dog or a deer or something. It's got to be within. It's got to be within normal stuff, right? But you can exaggerate by adding a little bit, or a dump over, like a ear that dumps over. There's no set rules, but a caricature is exaggerated features.
And Mike, I think you're right. It's usually the ears that are the really exaggerated thing. the other I got to be careful not to look down here, or else Murray's going to think I'm guilty of something here. So.
What are you hiding?
Yeah, what am I hiding? Yeah. The other thing that I know I've disappointed myself in sometimes is that I'll do a caricature and I'll want a really wide nose, and it'll end up being a little bit too narrow, and it looks too realistic. You know, if it's too well proportioned, the length to the width, and it kind of takes away from the caricature in my mind anyway. I like a wider nose. And so, you know, sometimes the nose is as wide as the outside of the eyes itself, right? But in terms of exaggeration, I like to see a big nose, big bulbous nose, and big ears. That to me makes a caricature.
You can also,
I-
make the forehead larger
Yeah,
and
Yeah.
not slant as far back, like almost straight up. You can do things with the hair too, if you have hair.
On a full caricature, hands and feet are also enlarged most of the time, right?
right.
Okay.
Right. Look at Pete Leclerc. He's an amazing artist. Look at his hands. And that took him like 20 minutes to carve this. It was amazing to watch. Everybody knows Marv, Kazakhstan. He's got a lot of detail on this little guy. That hair. You know, I always do too. I always, I'll show you what I do too. I get some of my ideas from the old carvers, the old French carvers, pet carvers.
Mhm.
You know, like you go to the yard sales or flea market and get these old carvings. They're just amazing to look at and amazing to pick up ideas and how their stance are. Like you could tell she's sloped over a little bit. She's bending over, and the features in her face, and you know how they. It's all simple cuts, and it's very like flat carvings. But look at her face. It just so much detail in that face. This one got chewed up a bit, but this side's all right. But this is like $1 at a flea market. And I got a by all kinds. As soon as I find them, I grab them. Look at this guy here. This is an old one. Look at the body, how his stance is. Just, you know, but there's no straight lines. That's what I'm trying to get to you, that he's not straight up and down. You know, you can tell him he's leaning forward, like he's out a bit. He's leaning back. You know, his head's turned. But look at the wrinkles in the clothing. And I just love these old carvings, I got paid $1 for this one too.
No, you're kidding.
Yeah,
That's awesome. That's awesome.
it was broken, but I wanted to see the body, how the body is. And I made a few carvings from this, like from this stance. I made some carvings from this. So go around, pick up some old, go to some flea market. You'll see all kinds of them for a few dollars.
And when you made your carving from that, you sold it for $1 too, did you?
Yeah, oh, of course. $1.50.
I've got an example one here. I can show you what I did. I took a pattern from one of the old wood carving illustrated. It's supposed to be the fireman.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, so this is kind of what I did. But hearing from what you're saying, I've started doing the eyes, but I can see right here, it's kind of squared off. I need to take.
If you just take a knife and cut that from the top down and from bottom up, and you take that little corner off, the eye will be pushed to the back. You're very close.
Close. Oh, that's good. Close is good.
Yeah, just take a little notch off right there, like this. Take that there. like that. And you'll have that eye towards the back. You're really
Okay.
close. Yeah,
All right.
that's good.
And just a side comment, should everything open up, it would be a wonderful trip for the caricature carvers to go to St. John Port Joli in Quebec.
Oh, yeah. I've been there.
I said, we've been there quite a few times. We used to live in the Maritimes. You go back and forth, and we had to stop there.
Beautiful.
I lived in Three Rivers, Quebec, and it was one of the dream places that I spent quite a bit of time watching.
Yeah, Jean Beliveau, full-size Jean Beliveau in there.
The
Yeah.
Caron family, Caron, is one of the names you'll find at the bottom of a lot of the carvings.
Yeah,
Caron.
I think this one is a Caron.
I have a shelf full of these carvings, but they also go for a huge price right now. No more $1 and $1.50.
Yeah.
Collectibles.
But there's I got quite a few of them. And like I said, it's amazing. Out of the little shape, but it shows so much feeling. And with just a few cuts. This one's pretty straight up and down, but you can tell it with her neck, her head's forward a bit. But it's all good ideas, all good tools to make your own carvings.
I should just add something here, Mark, just as a rider to what I just said about St. John Port Joli, is we'll stop there on the way down to Jean Paul's place.
Yes.
There's an idea. There's an idea. That's where we'll phone them and tell them to put the lobsters on.
That's right.
Now,
But see,
John, I'm taking a look at the head behind, just on your table there. That's where you kind of left everybody off last time. So you talked, if we've gone that far in our instruction, the next piece would be to start hollowing out that eye and forming the brow.
Yeah.
And then what would you do after that, just to give people a sense of kind of the step-by-step process here?
well, I would once let me see if I can switch this camera. See if that'll work on. Can you see? Yeah, I can see pretty good, right?
Yeah.
Is that pretty good?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, I'll just keep it around here. So now I got that eye set to the back. So if I draw that eye out, like around, wait a minute, I got a second, I gotta clean this up. I'm rather nice. A lot of time, what I'll do too is I'll scoop out, see, yeah, good. So I'll scoop out where the cheek is before I start the eye. You got to get all these before you do any detail. You want to make sure the whole outside, like you're starting to see some definition what's coming up. So let me do the other side.
Stan, just a question on perhaps some of this. It's so easy to get trapped into going off on a tangent, because you start to recognize the nose or ears, or you want to do something different with the eyes, to lose track of the sequence and order. Is it possible perhaps to put an actual numerical sequence on some of the major components so that we don't get off track?
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, that sounds good.
That sounds like a possible article, John Paul.
Yeah, that would, thinking the same.
That'd be fabulous if you could. That'd be wonderful.
like you can get the basic step by steps, but you know, eventually you're gonna have to, like, once I do some detail here, I'm just gonna go over it really fine and round, make sure everything's not flat and nothing's square or straight. See, I got it pretty straight here, so I want to cut this out a bit. It's too straight. But see his see the attitude in his brow.
I can see where I can improve anyway on my sequence anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like if you watch what John has shown us so far, like started with the ear, and the ear gave him a sense of where the jawline had to be and where the eye had to be. And then he started digging out those eye sockets, basically. Now, John uses a knife. I use a combination of a knife and a gouge to get to the same thing. But you know, the key thing you want to watch what John's doing right now, as he's gouging out those eye sockets beneath the eyebrows, it's almost automatically defining the nose, because you have to gouge something out to get the eye socket. You're leaving that center line where the nose is, and all of a sudden the nose starts forming without really putting a lot of thought into what the nose ought to look like.
Mm-hmm. Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah, and you know, John, the other thing you mentioned to us was right at the top of the nose, that bridge between where the nose ends and the eyebrow comes out, that bump.
Yeah.
You know, so you're developing that as well. I tend to actually make a really deep cut there, so I can see how deep I want to go, and then that tells me how deep I want to go beyond that for the eye sockets as well.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, Stan was asking about the steps. So those are the kind of the steps. You know, ears goes to the eye sockets. The eye sockets automatically form the nose for you. Start giving you an idea where the eyebrows are. That's where John is right now.
Yeah, and a little caution notes perhaps in there too, because it's so easy to go off track. And you know, that's what I get myself into trouble with no matter what I do. I you know, I see things as I go along and I go, oh, that's a good idea. In a way, I go off on this tangent. Cautions.
Yeah, the only bad tangent I think you can get into, you know, with what John is showing us is again what John has described a couple of times, is really try to keep away from putting in a lot of detail until the very end. So, you know, John's got a face that you can start to see where at least the bottom of the nose is, where the eyebrows are, where the ears are, but you still don't know the expression on his eyes. And you know, sometimes the carried away, I think that Stan might be talking about, is you get to this point and say, oh geez, I'm gonna do that eyeball now, and I got exactly an idea what the eyelid is going to be, and you haven't gone far enough with developing the basics of that eye socket, and so now you end up with kind of a squarish, beautiful eyeball on kind of a squarish face. You know, so those are the tangents you want to try to resist.
There's no way I'm going to detail yet. I want to make sure all the, like, just like doing the outside head, I want to make sure that this is all rounded and like this. I want to get all the shapes in there. They're almost there, but they're getting there, like the nose. And but then if you wanted, you could start putting the nose in. Just I always make a line like that. And I always make a little notch here. And I come back. And I undercut the nostril. Just create a little bit of a shadow there. And depending on whatever, just a generic person here, I'm just going to go down like that. Clean that up.
Okay, so while John's doing that, I'm just going to pick up on the notion about the steps. Okay, so John has done those eye sockets. The nose all of a sudden started to appear because he was taking away that cheek stuff over top of the nose. So you sort of got this triangular nose filling in. And what he did was he said, okay, if that's where the nose, that's where I now know the nostril is going to be. I know that laugh lines tend to go out from the top of the nostril and down to the face. And so he did one side and he'll do the other side. And then he'll shave off that middle part, round out that middle part between the two laugh lines.
Yeah.
And by doing that, automatically, because he's created that laugh line, he's created the jowls and the cheeks. Okay. And the smile in the mouth is going to be within that in a bit of a tighter radius.
And you just put your hand on your face, on your mouth, between your laugh lines. It's a mound here. It's a little mound. You got to put that whole mound in. You can't put a smile in yet. It's not rounded. It's not mounding yet. Once I put the other side in, let me see. Yeah.
Yeah, can I mention something here? I know that if you're right-handed, I've been told that things work easier if you do the left side first. Then when you go to do the right side, for one thing, your hand's not in the way, so you can see the left while you're doing the right.
I never.
And it's usually easier for you to do the right, so it's easier to match it if you've done the left one first and then the right. I know I've tried that with eyes, and I know that if I don't do that and do the right one first and then go to do the left one, it is more difficult.
I've taught people, and they said, "Oh yeah, you did the easy side first." I always got this side. I guess I don't know why. I don't know what they were saying, but I guess you're right there.
Yeah, the video stops. The video stops after you do the right side.
But see, it's now, like Mark was saying, now this is pretty flat here still. So now I'm going to go back and make them, before I put the mouth in, I want to round that off. I want to dig in where the chin is. Can you see it good, Mark?
Yeah, I can see that really well. And
Okay.
the other thing is you're probably going at a bit of an angle, sloping up from the chin to the nose, because you want to leave enough wood there for the lower lip, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, that sharp line, I want to get rid of that sharp line. But I got this pretty rounded here now, a little bit more. Yeah, the only resistance you want to do is resist on going to detail too quick. You got to make sure all the points are covered. Now it's pretty rounded, so I can put whatever's mouth I want. It's right across from the bottom of the ear. So maybe he'll be an angry guy, or well, he's kind of curious, so maybe something like that. Yeah, don't matter. So what I do for that, I go to each side, notch in that both sides. Start over here. And then I come back, take that little notch out. And maybe we'll go down. Have a bigger lower lip. if I do this. But you're starting to see some good attitude on them.
Yeah.
But see how this is straight here and straight across. Now watch. I'm going to define that chin. I put a couple scoops here. A couple of scoops there. Big difference from that. And then past that little bump right here, I'm going to put a little indentation here. And I'll put it over here. And define the chin a little more. Yeah, instead of chisels, this is why I'm doing the same thing with the knife. I can go like this and scoop it out. Do the same thing. And I'm defining that lower lip right now. Even like doing the ear. See how flat that is? I'm going to scoop that out. Give it a nice look. And then at the bottom of your earlobe, or the bottom here, always make a little notch there. And just going around, I go around and I'll see where this is not, it's too flat. I'll run that down like that. This area here is a little too flat. I'm gonna come here and scoop that out a bit. And I like how Lynn does the cheeks. So he does the cheek, they put a line here, a line there, and they put a line here. I like that. I use that a lot. So like that. Especially if you had a skinnier face and a chubbier face, you won't see this big of a notch, where you wouldn't define the cheeks as much.
So if that's hard for people to see, what John did was he made two cuts, right? He made one that came from the ear towards the chin, and that's the bottom of the cheekbone. So he hollowed, he cut that. He could have hollowed that out just to make that line, that diagonal line from the ear down towards the chin, the cheekbone. And then he took another cut and made it on the other side. He had cut that laugh line around the nostrils. He moved over a little bit more and cut another one along the same line as the laugh line to leave a kind of a vein of flesh there. And so it's now hollowed out between that cheekbone and the laugh line.
If I may, when Lynn describes it, he describes it as a T.
Or a Y, yeah.
Yeah, and he starts out with the point of his knife, and then he comes across, digging it in deeper and then back out sort of. And then the same thing with the main part of the T draws it down. And then when he cuts in, you've got an almost indentation type of thing.
Fix that. Anyway, but it's getting there. Well, let me want to do an eye. Let me clear this up for a second. Okay.
Well, why don't you do the eye next time, John, because
Okay,
you're going to want to
okay.
review this stuff anyway. But what one of the things you haven't come back to is the inside of the ear. So why don't you talk a little bit about that before you quit on this one?
Okay. So I got the basic shape so far. I want the shape that I want. The overall shape, I should say. See, I got it going like this, and where the earlobe is here, and I want it rounded off. I'm not doing any detail until I'm happy that everything is done. The overall shape is there. So what I do for an ear is I put in a W. So I go like that. And then I put a little line down there. So that's my basic shape of the ear. So let me curve that out. Maybe let me move it a bit. Too far over.
After you pencil it in, show it to the camera again so people can see that pencil. It was a little hard to see.
Yeah. It's a W. So I'm gonna put it in. Let's see. Yeah. Curve it. I curve on a bit of an angle, not straight in. I'll notch that out. And then a little notch here.
Yeah, Paul, when you get this, that feature done, if we could move, take the head that you're doing back to the other camera, it's a little bit more clear to see.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So if you could do that, switch there, and we could be able to see a little bit clearer on the video.
Okay. And where that sharp line was, now I'm rounding that over, taking the pencil marks off. I'm just slowly shaping. I'm not taking a big gouges out of it. I'm just taking a little slivers and rounding those edges off. Oops. Anyway, that's how I do ears. Get a little bit deeper here. Okay, let me switch cameras here. Switch it. It's hard to carve it this way, deeper in.
Too high.
Oop, 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 the other way. Maybe I gotta move this thing. But I'm just taking little slivers off.
John, why don't you leave it there for tonight's session, and then next time
Okay.
pick up on the eyes. But hold the thing up right in the camera there, and maybe just kind of, just with words, review the different steps that you took. You started
Okay.
off really was just sort of smooth, and you had an ear, and that's all you had.
Yeah, yeah. So for all the parts of the face and the head, you want to get the outline, the overall portion, the overall size, the overall definition. Then you put the detail in. So
Yes. So just hold it up, John, so that we can see the face.
yep.
Yeah, just hold it right side up, and you don't have to carve, but just kind of describe the steps that you took after you I just identified the outline of the ear. As an example, I'm talking about the whole face here, John, not just the ear.
Okay.
Yeah, like as an example, the first thing I saw you do was hollow out the eye sockets or that portion.
Yeah. And then I, with that, like Mark was saying, with that shape, when I start digging these out, digging the cheeks out, I'm getting the shape of the nose. When I do the eyes, I'll be able to do more detail on the nose. I'll be able to bridge that nose a bit more because I'm going to have that circle for the eyes. But then it just, like you said, it builds up onto the next step. Automatically, you go to the cheek line, because now I got the cheeks formed. And then I can do the smile line. Now I know across from the ear, I got the mouth.
Okay, just hold her up again, John.
Oop. Across from the ear, I know I have a mouth, so I can put that line in. And I can put that mouth in, whatever, angry, sad, whatever I wanted, whatever I'm trying to portray, I'll do that. But everything's exaggerated, but it is a caricature, but it is you still have to have the human qualities. I don't know if that's a word or not.
Sort of what you might call accurate to the body, but
Anatomy.
yeah, the anatomy. Thank you. But it is stretched a little.
Yes. Like I said, you don't want to go too far, then it looks like an alien or something, right? If you had the ears really long, be like an alien. So you want to go a little bit exaggerated. That's it. And you'll see some, like if you go on that Pinterest and look at caricature, where they do movie stars and stuff like that, you'll see them where they're special looks or whatever. They have a certain look that, I don't know, John Travolta or something like that. They'll exaggerate that, the eyes up or the smile or the teeth,
That's really good, John. That was really good. So maybe next time we're going to get you to talk about, take it from there and start
Yeah.
putting in that eyeball and the eyelid and that type of thing, right?
Yeah, we'll do the eyes next time.
That's great. Any questions for John before he signs off on this?
Just a big thanks. That's amazing.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, that's great. Thanks a lot, John. That was really good.
Yeah,
Okay, I'm just going to take 10 or 15 minutes then if there are no longer any more questions for John. And I'm going to share with you, I'll just do the share screen here again. And one of the things that I wanted to talk very briefly about was just a method for attaching additions. So think of the arms as an example. We talked about that a couple times before on these sessions. John and I and many of the carvers that were on the Zoom call at the time talked about really watching the grain of the wood. So as an example, if I did a body and the grain of the wood was going in this direction, but I wanted to do an arm that was out in this direction, then that was going to create a problem because the grain of the wood would be going across a very slender piece of wood and it would ultimately break inadvertently, right? And so what I would do is when I know I have a character that has its arm out like that, I'll make sure the grain of the wood is going in the direction of the arm. And so that means that's going to be a separate piece and I've got to join it at the shoulder, okay? And so when you do join it at the shoulder, you want that to be a really, really tight seam. You don't want to see any gaps in there. You can cheat a little bit by carving in the seam of the shirt if you want. So there's a little bit of bump there, but you really want that to be a tight, tight, tight seam for a variety of reasons. One is the visual aspect of it. The
It's
second
Richard.
is that,
Can we see what you're doing? All I've got on my screen is discussion.
yeah, I'm going to get to that in just a minute. Can you see my picture as well, though?
No, all I have is discussion.
Oh, you should be able to see the video feed as well. So at the top right hand of your, at least on mine, there's a bunch of bars there, and there's one with 2 bars that'll allow you to see some of the people on the call as well as this chart. Okay,
Yeah,
but I'm going to be
okay.
getting.
Thank
okay.
you.
Okay. And so all I was saying, I just had my arm out and I was just saying that when you want that seam and you have pieces of wood going in different directions, you want that seam nice and tight for the visual aspect of it. You don't want to see a gap, but also you want that seam tight because that's your glue joint. And the tighter you can get that glue joint, the stronger that seam's going to be. Okay. So let's pretend that the piece of wood on the right is going to be the body, and we're looking at one's shoulder, and the piece of wood on the left is going to be the arm. And so you can see that flat portion on the arm that I just very quickly cut away. That's going to fit up against the body. The body, I would normally carve it a little bit so that the shoulder section would be nice and smooth. I just left it rough here just for demonstration purposes. To do this, you're going to need a few things. You're going to need your caricature of the body, obviously. You're going to need the arm piece carved out a little bit, very roughed out. You're going to need a dowel of some point. You're going to use that dowel for a couple of reasons that I'll describe to you. One is for locating the arm. The other is when you're gluing, you need that dowel so that you can clamp it or tape that arm to the body or whatever you tend to do to provide pressure. But if that dowel isn't there, that arm's going to float away when you apply pressure through a clamp. So you need that dowel there to secure it. You're going to need a drill bit the size of the dowel you use, and you're going to need some artist's lead. And so artist's lead is something you can get at an art store. It's just a small brick of pencil lead. You can get it in different hardnesses. You want to get a fairly soft one so it leaves a real black surface. Now, the dowel that I'm using here is a meat skewer. All right, so this is a meat skewer that you'd use to make a shish kebab and put it on the barbecue. This particular dowel is, this meat skewer is no more than about 1/8 of an inch in diameter. You certainly don't need a 1/4 inch diameter dowel. If you go to Home Hardware or Home Depot or wherever you find some dowels, if you get 1/8 of an inch, 3/16 of an inch, you've got plenty of dowel there for what I just described, being able to locate the arm and being able to use it to clamp. In my opinion, and I think in a number of people's opinion, the dowel isn't really adding any strength. You know, you'll have some instances where you need strength, a hardwood dowel in your carving. But for this kind of work where you're just trying to mate 2 pieces together, you're getting the strength out of a glue joint. You're not getting the strength out of the dowel. The dowel is just allowing you to always get that thing in the right place as you get those 2 surfaces closely mated as possible. Okay, and here's how you do that. First of all, you see I'm holding the pseudo body portion here, and I just made a little X in where I wanted to create my first hole for the dowel. Okay, so I've drilled in the hole for the dowel, and I've cut off a little piece of that 1/8 inch dowel and I've put it into the hole. It's probably going in about a 1/2 of an inch into the wood, and it's protruding out maybe a 1/16 of an inch or an 1/8 of an inch. I only want it to protrude out a little tiny bit because my next step is to blacken that end of that dowel. So now I've taken the lead, that artist's lead, and I've just blackened the very end of the dowel. And the reason I'm blackening it, I want to know where the hole has to be drilled on the arm. And so now I've got the arm that I'm going to mate against it. I'm going to position that arm as closely to the body as I think I want it in the, whether the arm's back or whether the arm's forward. I'm going to position it as close as I can. And then I'm going to put the two pieces together and I'm going to slowly, just gently rub them. When I take it away, now I've got exactly where I need to drill the hole on the arm. Okay, everybody understand that okay?
Yep.
That was the only reason I put the dowel in with only a little bit of the dowel protruding, so I could make a mark on that arm. All right. Now that I made the mark on the arm, I drill out the arm. Now, if you're using a basswood dowel, you can drill right through the arm if you want. It's going to be a nice crisp drilled hole and you won't see any gap there. I typically don't do that. I just drill to just before I get to the surface, the outside surface of the arm. But now you see I've taken out that short dowel and I've put it in a longer dowel. So it's well beyond a 1/16 of an inch protruding. It's going to protrude all the way into the arm. Okay. So again, you can see here, when you think about those two mating surfaces right now, they're not mating very well at all. The arm portion has been carved just flat. The body portion is convex. It's got a curve on it. Okay, so mating those two together, if I were to glue it just like that, the glue would harden and be a good bond just around the dowel, but the top and the bottom, there'd be a gap, and that's what you want to avoid. Again, I don't believe that the dowel in these kind of cases add a lot of strength. It's the glue joint. And the only way the glue joint is going to add strength is if there's no gap between the wood, the two mating surfaces. Okay? So here we go. So that's what I want to end up with. I'm able to put the arm right onto the body part right now and hold it in place because the dowel is holding it. I can't move the dowel. I can't move the arm up or down or left or right because the dowel is prohibiting that. But there's quite a gap now at the top of the arm and at the bottom of the arm. And so what I do is I take that dowel out. I take my artist's lead and I scribe all over one of the surfaces. So you can scribe all over the arm surface if you want. In this case, I scribed all over the body surface, but you only scribe over one surface. You put the dowel back in, and then you take that arm and you place it exactly where you want, oriented back or front on that dowel. And so to do that, you can see I just put the arm on the body. And with a pencil, I just made a little line on the top of the arm and the top of the body so that every time I put that arm back on the body, it'll be in the exact same spot. Okay, the arm, if I didn't have those lines, I could end up with the arm back at one point and the arm forward at one point. And that's important because what you're doing is when you put it on the doweled section against that one surface that has the lead on it, you're transferring the lead to the surface that doesn't have the lead on it, in this case, the arm. And so what that's telling you is on the arm, these blackened sections are all the high points. And so you take a knife or you take a gouge and you cut away all that black surface. Okay, and you've basically cut away all the high points. You don't make like an 1/8 inch deep cut. You just cut away the lead. And then you do it again. And when you do it again, you'll find the high spots are in different spots now. So I had cut away the center section, two other high spots appeared at the very top and the bottom. So you do it again. And you keep doing it until much of the arm in this case is blackened. because when most of it is blackened, it really tells you everything's a high spot. You've got a really nice mated surface. So you just keep doing that. Typically, I find you might do that 5 or 6 times, always lining up those top marks to make sure you're putting the arm back in exactly the same place, giving it a little wiggle, pulling it apart, using a knife or gouge just to take away those black sections until in fact you've got a really good mated surface. And that's what that is. You might not see it great from this particular photograph, but this top is as tight as the bottom as is around the dowel. And so now what you're able to do is, because you know that that's a perfectly mated surface, and you've still got those marks at the top where you replace that arm in the same position every time. If you want to cut wrinkles below the arm, on the body here, or on the arm sleeve itself, you just take it, you just pull it apart. It's not glued. You do all the carving you want to do. You just don't touch those surfaces. And you carve in any detail you want, and only glue it when you're satisfied all the tough parts to get at have been dealt with. And that in itself is one of the selling features of doing your carving this way. Often, we find ourselves with a caricature and we're trying to get under the arm here on the body, and it's tough to do because you really don't have much room to work. Often you're going against the wood in a fashion that it's not the easiest to get at the grain of the wood and make nice sharp cuts. This, you just take it off, you do the work, you put it back on and glue it back in place. And again, when you glue it back in place, I've used white glue, or the yellowish carpenters or cabinet makers glue. I find that's the best because it soaks into the wood a little bit. I've also used 5-minute epoxy, and that's fine, although it tends to stay kind of on the surface of the wood rather than really bite into the wood. But the strength of that arm has really nothing at that point to do with that dowel. It just has to do with the fact that you've made a nice tight surface here. And if you've bothered to read your cabinet maker's glue bottle or carpenter's glue bottle, it'll say clamp it for an hour and then let it cure for 24. And so that clamping it for an hour, you could put one edge of your clamp on this surface and another edge of your clamp somewhere on the body. If that dowel wasn't there, when you squeezed with pressure on that clamp, that arm would squeeze off in one direction or the other. It would follow whatever angle your body is, but that dowel keeps it exactly where you want to have it. Clamp it for an hour. You can take the clamp off, let it set for 24 hours. If you ever broke that, it would break somewhere other than that glue joint. Okay, so that's a way to consider. Not everybody likes to do that, do your carvings and pieces. I found it very helpful though for the things that I mentioned. One, for hard to get at places, and second, it allows me to deal with getting the grain of the arm and the body in the most optimum direction for strength. Okay. Okay, any questions or comments on that? I know I went through quick.
I have a comment. I have maybe an illustration of what you're talking about. Now, the trouble is I don't see myself now, so I don't know what I'm showing. Which thing do I hit for that?
I see
view,
you.
maybe.
I see you.
Gallery view. Okay, so I've got this little carving of a gnome feeding a nuthatch, a nut. And you see this arm here is integral to the piece, but the other arm is done much like you said. And I wasn't sure, he's feeding this bird, and I had the bird and a separate toadstool and so on. So I carved the arm with a open nut. He's using a hammer and so on to bang open the hard shells on these. I guess they'd be like oak acorns or whatever. Anyway, but the arm I used, instead of a dowel, I used a cut off finishing nail. Yeah. And so the arm and hand and the nut are all one piece of wood. But then, as you said, I was able to then use the dowel to kind of orient the bird in relationship to the gnome trying to feed him. And so that was a great help, actually. And I love your idea about that artist lead, which I'd never even heard of before. So the mating between that arm and, I'll just try and turn that around. The mating between the arm and the body isn't the greatest. And your method will make it better when I try to do that again in the future. I tried to hide it a little bit with the paint job and, you know, that kind of thing, but it isn't as good as yours by any means. Yours was a nice tight finish. And I think that kind of illustrates what
That's
you're talking
perfect.
about, particularly where we're trying to get a lot of components kind of working together into a scene kind of a deal.
Yeah,
So
I
anyway,
think that's a perfect example, and I'm glad you raised that, because you know, often when we do these caricatures, we have an idea that we're after, but we're not sure exactly where the hand's going to end up. You want it near something or in the right orientation, and you're not quite sure. And this is a way that allows you right to the end, right to before you glue it, to get everything exactly where you want it.
exactly, that dowel, I just use it as the pivot point.
Yeah.
And then I got my bird, everything set up so that then I could figure out, okay, then that bird needs to be a certain distance, like it's really curious and looking at what's on offer here, and you get it at the right angle. But you know, at the end of the day, I probably could have had that integral to the carving had I known what that angle would be, but I was really unsure of the bird and the bird leaning forward and so on. It was a little tricky to do. So anyway,
that's a good example. Nice carving.
yeah, that's just, thank you.
Good presentation, Mark. Very
Okay.
well done.
Okay, good, Daniel.
Yeah, got the point right across. But my only question is, where would you find the artist lead?
You know, you can go to any art shop, they'd have it. I'm sure Amazon has it too. You know what, people, artists use it for a variety of things, but if you've ever seen these great big wall charts where people have gone to, like England as an example, and gone to a tomb of a knight of old, and they've done an etching, that's the bar they would use. They put a big piece of paper down and they would etch over the whole thing, and that's the image that you get. And so they're very, very common. You'll find them at an art store. Just get the softest one that you can, because you don't, you know, you want to put it on, make sure that it's really dark so that you can see it easily. Of course, it is lead. Don't be eating your sandwich at the same time. When you're using the stuff, wash your hands a lot. And when you go to paint your carving, you'll find that there's lead on it, smudges of lead. So you need to wash your carving off really well so that your paint adheres. Okay. But if you're careful, the lead idea is a really great one.
Thanks very much.
Yeah, it's not my idea, by the way.
Another possibility is to do a carpenter's pencil. And just cut away the wood from it. You've got quite a wide piece of graphite there.
Carpenter's pencil is what you said. Oh, very good idea. Yeah, yeah. And that tends to be a soft lead too, doesn't it, Murray?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Just as a piece of trivia, machinists use the same technique to mate metal parts. Only
Very good, yeah.
They're scraping the metal with tiny little shavings.
Yeah, and you know what the machinist tolerance is, right? So it's something we can steal anyway. Yeah. Okay, folks, that was a really good session today. John did a great job. I thought that was terrific. Take the heads that you're working on and try to work a little bit further along what John has pulled together for us, and we'll pick up next time where we left off, and learn how to do probably the most difficult part is the eyes. John, did you want to add to that? John, if you're talking, you got to unmute.
Oh, mute. Is it on?
It's on now.
Okay. Yeah, let's get to this part here. If everybody can get to this part, I just did the one side. The other side's flat, but I got this one. So what I did is I put the eyeball in. See, you can see it, the roundness of the eye, and I dug this out a bit where the eye is going to be.
Just hold it up a bit, John. Yep.
Damn it. In here, I dug that out a little bit, but the half the eye will be in the back of the head. So you can see it's pretty well done, except the eye so far. So we'll have to do the other side the same way.
Good.
And-
that'd be great.
And the arms, when you're doing the arms, see on this little guy here, see how close? You don't want them rounded like the bottom of the arm. Where the sleeves are and the shoulders meet, it's pretty almost flush. See, as if this guy had a separate arm, there's not much wood here, not much wood. So you want to bring that up. You don't want it rounded. Like even Pete Leclerc's. See how it goes up? You don't want that same roundness of the arm up here. You know, your shoulder. Let me see here. Your shoulder, you look at your own arm, your own shoulder. This should be rounder here, like where your shoulder is, then it goes through your bicep. So there's some pretty straight here, but I do it where it's bicep or the shoulder, then the bicep. So I always round that off. Then I dig it down a little bit, and where the elbow is, then it comes out, and it goes back down into it again. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does. Okay, John, thank you again. That was a really good night. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. And in about a month's
you.
time, we'll be together again. Okay, have a good night.
And just a comment here, folks, before you leave, before you click out, could you click on the word chat, write your name, email, and telephone number in at the bottom right-hand side. So click the word chat. It's down below share screen. Mouse over it, you see the word CHAT. Click on that and you'll be able to sign in for. Some have done that already. And I had made a note earlier that the power might go off. It didn't. The tornado's gone on past Lakefield up towards Bancroft. But what we just got was a fantastic rainstorm. And it was 17 years ago today that the big flood in Peterborough happened.
Oh, wow.
And if you ever saw it, it was a fantastic opportunity for a beaver carving. I don't know if you saw the pictures of that, but on the main street, George Street, downtown Peterborough, was completely flooded with about 3 feet of water up the front of storefronts. Anything was below storefront, they were flooded completely. But the person that took it found a beaver stood in the middle of the street on a hump on an area of the street with his paws in front of his face, and he looked totally confused. Where do you put the dam? Well, thank you, folks.
Maybe that'll be our first or second caricature carving project, Murray.
Yeah, that'd be a good one. Now, one thing I just to suggest here is that we go to the next magazine that John Paul perhaps will work with us on this to do step-by-step forming the head. We'll put the profile again, the picture in, and then if you could carve different take pictures of it as you're carving. So we'll get the step process. And I really have a lot of comments with the magazine, with the number of people looking at that last magazine edition, how much it meant to them. So I appreciate, John Paul, all your work on this, but it really has helped us.
Good.
Thank you very much.
And if the rest of you get ready, and if you get some kind of a face done, get it carved and send it to me.
Yes.